The air in the town square of Red Creek was thick with dust and low mockery. All eyes were fixed on the auction block, waiting for the final humiliation of Clara May, the widow. She stood before Sheriff Grady, described by the cruel townsfolk as a fat widow with no shame. The sheriff's voice rang out, "Debt unpaid is debt dishonored. The Callahan farm, stock and tools are hereby forfeited." Caldwell, the smug councilman, smiled, knowing the water rights would soon be his. Clara May heard the names they called her, widow, useless, too big for my britches, and carried the shame like stones in her chest. Just as the bidding for the land quickened, a heavy leather pouch of silver landed on the table, scattering coins and silencing the crowd with a loud thud. From the edge of the square stepped Elias, the mountain man. He was towering, grizzled, and rarely seen in town. Elias didn't look at the sheriff. He looked at Clara May, his voice cutting through the stunned silence. 500, he stated flatly, covering the entire debt. The sheriff sputtered, "You think you can walk in here and—" Elias's voice dropped, solid as stone. "If a debt must be paid in flesh, then let me offer forever instead." He turned to Clara May, untying the ropes that bound her hands. "The debt's paid. You can walk out of here free. You owe me nothing." The sheriff quickly cleared the debt, his greed flickering across his face. Clara May rode with Elias to his cabin, leaving behind the town where her father had once bartered her. She feared being a burden, offering quickly, "I can help, truly, I can sew, I can read accounts." Elias told her honestly that he needed stability and a woman to run the household. He wanted a house that doesn't shrink anyone who walks through the door. She began her work, not trying to prove her worth, but to earn it, feeling that she was used to surviving, not earning. One night, the quiet ended. A rider, Cole, one of Caldwell's men, came to the ridge. He was sniffing around, trying to determine if the land had water underneath it. The threat was clear. "You think people care about a broken ranch and a fat woman with a shovel?" Elias told her they needed more than courage. They needed paper against paper. Clara May recognized that the quiet had only been temporary. Now they faced a storm of men, greed, and pride. She looked at Elias and vowed, "I'm not trying to start over, I'm trying to keep what's mine from being rewritten." She knew that if they wanted to survive, they needed more than the truth. They needed the narrative. Clara May returned to town, carrying her dignity and Elias's support. She sought out those who had worked for Caldwell, eventually finding an ally, Lucius DeWitt, the former title clerk who had been paid to disappear. Lucius confessed, naming names and describing how he was told to file false land titles for tracts that never existed. They had the evidence, bribe lists, Caldwell's handwriting, and testimony that could send copies to the federal marshal's office. They returned to face the town in a public hearing. Caldwell mocked her, "You think you can walk in here and—" Clara May stepped forward, carrying the old family ledger. Her voice did not tremble. "This isn't revenge, it's justice." She presented the ledger, showing that her land held the rights to the irrigation channels, not for Caldwell to hoard, but to share. When Elias spoke, his voice was measured, but carried like a rifle shot. "You built it on stolen dirt and dead names. That's not legacy, that's rot." The law was exposed. The justice that followed was decisive. Caldwell was arrested, and the court acknowledged the fraud. When the battle was over, Clara May stood tall. She had been insulted, debt-bound, and sold. But standing with the man who saw her worth, she understood the deepest truth. "I don't want to be saved. I want to be chosen." She had been chosen, and she had chosen back. The war didn't define them, the love did, and they had built something from the ruins. She knew she was not a possession, but a person, and she refused to let the town erase her.